Okay.
Nice to see you. Really nice to see you.
You too, my friend.
And as I look at the painting of yours uh, right behind you, that amazing design, composition, color, the intricacy of design and form, I have a question. So,
Okay.
the untrained eye would say, well, that looks like a connection to Picasso. And my response is, once you have some knowledge about composition, you then would ask these questions that I'm going to pose to you. Um, you creatively create a composition of forms, shapes, lines, and you use certain colors. You create a style for yourself, and it's something of your own. You yourself created it. But if someone says, yeah, but the connection is too close to Picasso, I would interject and say no. That is created by Eric Henty, and the source of inspiration could be a Picasso. What would you say to that?
I think that's a very interesting perspective. And um, one thing about Picasso himself was he drew on many sources of inspiration when he created his artworks, especially like during his Cubist period. Um, but before that, even before he really started um, creating his own styles, he went into the Prado Museum and he
Where is
started.
that? Where is the museum?
Oh, it's in Madrid. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, where he was living at the time with his parents, and he was just a very young man at the time. He'd already gone into the academic painting world and proved himself. People were astounded at his abilities. And from what I can understand, he got bored of being able to paint so well academically with such detail and precision. And he wanted some inspiration from the old masters. So he took his paints and his whole system with him into the Prado, and he set up in there and he started copying the masters.
Can you give me some
Uh,
example of the masters, Eric? I'm sorry.
like Goya, um, Diego Velazquez, El Greco, um, all these people that had come before him. And even one particular one, Diego Velazquez, he had painted a painting called Las Niñas.
The Maids of Honor, yes.
Yeah. And in the end, he painted that same scene like 58 different times, painting, sketches, and he was trying to absorb their mastery over materials, over um, symbolism, different ways of seeing things. And he very much did that, very much influenced him. Um, when you look at some of his earlier works, the masterpieces of his early works, like the guitar player, bluish kind of hue to it. The fingers, his limbs are elongated, very much so in the style of El Greco. Um, so he opened himself up to these influences and he wanted to learn from them, and he did. It's pretty amazing, but a lot of his influences became self-study, and he used all those styles to create his own. Um, so in a way, you could say if you looked at that uh, blue painting of the guy with a
Guitar player.
guitar,
Mhm.
man with a guitar, you could say, gee, that looks just like an El Greco or similar to an El Greco. And in some ways, there are similarities, but it still has his own stamp of originality on it as well.
So,
Um,
forgive me for interrupting. So, could you possibly focus in on then what do you do in your own artworks that makes your work from Eric Henty the original Henty in terms of your compositions? How do you create your own process?
it's a it's actually a very kind of unconscious kind of process at this point, and I think it's come from studying a lot of earlier works by Picasso, by Braque, a fascination by how they were able to create artwork that has different perspectives in it, and how they took something actually that was sculptural in a way and a 3D type of art, and then were able to put it onto a canvas very successfully in a two-dimensional and still have that impact, um, very energetic, spontaneous impact on the canvas. Although I would say in their earlier Cubist works, it's not so much spontaneous. That was a lot of it very analytical. They seem to have a particular goal in mind. Um, but to get back more specifically to your question, I think that in looking at their works, I think subconsciously I've been able to absorb a lot of their um, perspectives, their ways of painting, uh, and maybe even to the extent getting in touch with the same source that informed them while they were painting. Um, I know that some of them, it was during a time when a lot of artists were talking about um, being influenced unconsciously, like Dolly by Dreams, but almost like a contact for me with my own spiritual source. Uh, I would say God for me, and um, allowing that influence to come through. And sometimes when I'm done with a piece of artwork, especially in this series, I step back and I say, geez, I don't even know how I could have created that on my own. I must have had some other influences going on at the same time. Um,
Do,
kind of,
do, do you
yeah,
have it? Do you have a certain system to your process in terms of how you approach an empty canvas and what you use? Do you create a sketch or do you apply your color immediately? What's your own system and structure and process as you start?
yeah, thank you for that. I oftentimes will create a sketch, uh, maybe separately on a piece of paper, um, and then be kind of like inspired by that, or I'll actually do it on the canvas itself before I'll start to apply paint. Many times it'll start out as lines that have, um, I call them directional lines. They're very mathematical in their relationships to each other, sometimes forming circles, squares. other kinds of geometrical shapes.
Mhm.
And it all seems to kind of come together in a cohesive manner, um, as I'm kind of guided as I go along. And I'll apply paint to that. And um, at this time in this series, I was using acrylic paints, which I was able to apply at times pretty rapidly. Um, but many times I would finish one coat of paint and I would look at it and say, well, you know what, I don't feel like it's come to completion yet. And then I would apply the same methodology to the next layer of paint and be open to creating a whole different image.
Mhm.
And many times the image I created was very different from the first one. And sometimes I would paint over the same canvas two times, three times, even four times before I really felt like the image that was there was substantial, really, had a certain composition, color. Uh, it really spoke to me.
Mhm.
And it felt like it was a genuine.
Good. Eric, thank you.
Yeah, sure. There's one other thing that was coming into mind. Oh, yeah.
Please, please.
One thing I would say is as I've been doing that, the very sense that I'm constructing with each layer, it's sort of like the work becomes more developed, almost as if I'm using the layer underneath um, to give me a basis to move on to something that is more complete.
So you're scaffolding the layers to keep on building up the direction and the relationship of the different surfaces and the paints.
Very much so. Yeah,
Fascinating.
thank you.
No, thank you, Eric. I think it's really good. Very good introspective way of talking about your work right now. And of course, when we get to other works of yours, um, you'll be able to share when you're maybe facing one of your works, talking about the different layers and the different constructions of geometric form and which maybe part of the canvas you actually initiated and started going on to the next part of the composition. So maybe that's
Good
something
point.
you can plan on.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know.